Hey everybody, we are back. Casa 23 is, I guess it's about 2 weeks old at this point, but we're here to review all the insight, the inspiration, the impact from the CPAS Acceleration Alliance event in Amsterdam that just wrapped up a couple weeks ago. And we have some of the thought leaders and insiders who were there on stage in the community at the event. And there were a lot of lessons learned and a lot of opportunities presented, and we're going to review all of that. Before that, let's do some introductions. Probably none are needed for this panel, but let's start with Michael Brandenburg, Frost and Sullivan. Michael, how do you introduce yourself these days? What's your do you have like a
Uh,
slogan or something that you can share? What's going on at Frost?
um, yeah, no, senior industry analyst. I'm part of the connected work team, which is our branding for that entire enterprise communication stack. So I'm one great cog in a great team following the market.
Well, you're my favorite cog, so thanks
Okay.
for joining. My second favorite cog needs no introduction. Dave Michaels of Talking Points with a Z. Dave, you look very comfortable, very relaxed there. Is this the new European lifestyle? This
This
working
this
out for you?
this is the European lifestyle. Yep, I'm living on red wine in Portugal and stroop waffles from Amsterdam. So, great place to be. And
But but who are you? What for those who don't know, Talking Points with a
uh, t-
Z.
industry analyst for enterprise communications. I'm part of the connected work team. Is that what it's called, Michael? I didn't catch that. But yeah. So unlike Frost, I'm just a one man company and cover enterprise communications broadly.
Come on, just a one man. You're downplaying yourself. You're the man in
But very big. I'm
enterprise
a very big
communication.
man. We'll leave it at that.
And of course, Alan Percy. How long have I known you, Alan? Like
I,
25,
you
20
know,
years?
that's one of the things. Matter of fact, one of the interesting things about some of this last couple of weeks with some of the events, you run into some people, and we're kind of some of the numbers included things like 90s. So, yeah, it
Not
was
90
kind of
years old. You're
no, no,
not
no, like the
90, are you? Or
1990s, the
okay.
1990s.
I
Running
was like,
into
about to say
people
you're
that,
looking really good, Alan, for 90. I mean,
yeah,
you're
no,
that's
it's yeah, it
fantastic.
was yeah, you and I have worked together for a long, long time, and well, I've been kicking around the industry for a long, long time, right? But
Kicking around, there's the best. And who is Telco Bridges for those who don't know Telco
yeah,
Bridges?
so yeah, Telco Bridges. Currently the last a little over 6 years, I've been working with Telco Bridges. They're focused on making session border controller and media gateway technology, which are a critical piece for the CPaaS market, providing the connectivity for the applications to the outside world and protecting those applications. And so, yeah, it's been a very interesting, good matchup for a technology to fit into this expanding explosive market. And our friends, the people up in Montreal, where all this comes to be. So glad to be here.
Yeah, fantastic to have you. And last but not least, Tom Brennan, a senior analyst on convergence. Tom, you make the best videos. I see you
Oh.
all the time, and I thought I do
I'm
videos.
I'm
And
watching Tom on video right now.
Well, I coming from you, that means a lot, Evan. And yeah, I love making videos. And when I kind of struck out to be an analyst 4 years ago, I wanted to make video kind of my primary or the first thing in my tool belt that I go to. And I was just working on a video yesterday and spent like 2 or 3 hours and just completely in heaven trying to solve little problems and make cool stuff happen. So I
and you cover
absolutely
video,
love
so you cover like AR and VR and Apple Provision and all this
yeah.
cool stuff, right? So
Yeah, yeah. In
it's
addition
part.
in addition to CX, which is part of my focus,
Mhm.
yeah, a big part of my business has been on that kind of emerging space. And we've had a little bit of a lull the last 18 months or so, but things are definitely really picking up. Big announcements yesterday from Meta and Apple's course stuff coming out next year. So be on the lookout for some more content in that space as things ramp back up.
Fantastic. Well, let's start with Dave. the most important question we want to get out of this session, what was the food like in Amsterdam at Casa 23? Highlights, lowlights, any takeaway? Did you take away food, actually,
The soup
physically? But okay, in all seriousness, we're not going to talk about food as much as I'd like to do that. What was some of the top two takeaways from the event and the learnings?
You know
and the
what I
sessions?
find really interesting is that I guess you could say CPAS is at its 15th year, right? Because I think most people would say Twilio started 15 years ago and invented the category. So it's been 15 years, but it's been an overnight success just recently. And so we just had the Magic Quadrant come out the same week as CPAS, as the Casa 23 event. So we've had this thing building for a while, and I think what did it actually, because we've been talking APIs for a long time, we've been talking extensibility. I think the pandemic did it because I think we realized that we had to accelerate our digital transformation. So now everybody's like, let's do it. Now we're really going to do it. Last time we were just talking about it, but now we're really going to do it. So there's like this whole new energy, and I was just really impressed with the amount of energy at the Casa 23 event. It was hard to admit that it's a 15-year-old category because it's just rejuvenated. It's just so much energy right now. It's brand new.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, it's kind of like Michael Brandenburg. He's a brand new guy. I mean, he's not a 30-year industry analyst. It's like you're a kid again, Michael. So,
I got
what were your
15.
takeaways? What sessions? What were your highlights?
I think, yeah, I saw the same thing that Dave had, that overnight success. It's taken 10 years to do it. But I think my takeaway, I wasn't really sure what to expect going to Casa, because it's I deal with a lot of the people that were attending as like competitors, and how they want to get at each other. And I I got there and I saw the ecosystem that was, hey, we're kind of marketing this wrong. Yeah, in Alan's session, like how do we think about this, and how do we educate the market together on this? And partners and enablers and providers looking for answers on it. So it's in fact it kind of, I was leading this way, but it's really even kind of informed how I'm going to think about the next time we have a Frost radar for CPAS, how I evaluate ecosystem partners in this space. So I guess the takeaway is I'm tweaking my scoring, thinking about how CPAS fits into all these solutions rather than looking at just speeds and feeds.
Hey, Michael, do you have any idea how long we've been using the term CPAS? I mentioned Twilio 15 years ago, but it took years after that to even come up with the term. Do you remember when that came about? I don't recall when we started using that term.
I first heard it 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't even know where it came from.
Well,
I suspect it's one of those other firms decided to do it. Call it that.
Yeah, if it puts it in perspective, I started that CPAS forum on LinkedIn 9 years ago. So it, if I picked up on the term and decided to create, a forum on LinkedIn, so it must have been kicking around 9, 10 years at least. Something
No,
like
I bet you were the first one, Alan. I bet you invented it. The godfather of CPAS right here.
This is the beauty of having a bunch of old guys on it. None of us can remember when CPAS started.
Yeah.
But Tom, what about you? What were some of the takeaways? Companies, a lot of companies, startups, vendors there. Any highlights on your end that are really memorable?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me there were several highlights that I wanted to echo too. Just having kind of pieces of the ecosystem there, from solution providers to telcos to UCaaS folks to traditional CPaaS. I mean, like, it was really cool to have that kind of community together. But one of the highlights for me was being a judge on their showcase challenge. So they had 4 different companies that presented like demos, kind of live demos, and they had 10, 15 minutes to talk about their solution and show it to us. And then the crowd voted via, an app. And then, us judges got to vote as well. Yeah, so there was Blueware had a cool solution that did some stuff around like kind of integrating web chat with kind of native Microsoft Teams and using chatbots and agent escalation all with inside Teams, which was really cool. CM.com did a cool one where they took the Casa 23 website and just ingested the content and then created a conversational chatbot that you could ask questions about the conference. Who are the speakers? How much does it cost? And it would spit out very articulate answers, and then you could escalate to an agent if you wanted to pay or wanted to get more information. So that was pretty cool. There was I'm blanking on the name, but the one that won was Radisys, who they had a cool one where they had like camera, like security video feeds, and they're able to just build a very simple rule that if you see fire in this part of this video feed, then we want you to send an email, record the video, and send that to the appropriate people, as well as make a phone call and call a supervisor and that kind of thing. So that was really cool. And yeah, I mean, that was just seeing it in action, seeing these real tools going beyond just simple, we can generate an SMS text message, which is a lot of people think that's all really CPaaS can do. Seeing the integration of AI, seeing really kind of taking it to the next level. Their CPaaS 3.0, I guess, is where we're at now. And so I really love seeing these kind of real products. It's not just this concept and it's APIs, no one really knows what it is. It was cool seeing actual solutions.
Yeah, and Dave, any favorite children you want to call out here from the event? Vendors you want to mention? I know you're supposed to be neutral territory here.
I hate them all equally. It's okay. But
and they hate you equally too, so it's kind of simpatico.
But I was actually on a briefing yesterday, a CPaaS briefing yesterday, and I got called out in the studio audience for my RCS questions. And so I was actually quite pleased at Casa 23 that InfoBip actually did a case study, and it was about RCS, and it was actually a great success story. And so, and InfoBip is a company, is a great example, a company that's kind of off my radar, right? And so I don't really know a lot about them. They're let's see, where were they based? They're based in UK, I think it is. And the woman that was presenting was from Sweden. And so they presented a success story with RCS, and they said, I recall it was they ended up getting 66% more engagement with by switching to RCS. And I thought that was really interesting because RCS could, in the US where so much iPhone dominance, just the fists come out and people want to start having a barroom brawl. So I thought it was really interesting, and it was great to see that, and it was great to learn about InfoBip. So that's the one I'll call out.
Yeah, me too. I may or may not have been on a beach in Croatia 2 weeks ago during Casa 23, but that's a side note. Michael,
hey,
what about you? Or sorry, Tom. Yes, you wanted to jump in.
Yeah. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but Speech Logics. I didn't want to forget my good friends at Speech Logics. They were the fourth, the one that I flaked on earlier. You're talking about us.
And what was the use case or the demo from Speech Logics and other?
Yeah, they had a really cool one that was a text message. Well, it was a mobile-based loan application, but they were doing so many cool things. It wasn't just like a form, because they were able to use like GPS for the phone's location. They had APIs tapping into the government to verify their ID, to the national bank to verify their thing, and then they were using other APIs to do things like additional verifications, where it could generate a phone call back just saying, we just want to confirm that you want to proceed with this loan. If you said yes, then it would connect you to an agent or do a call back later. So but what was interesting about it is they said that process used to take about 45 minutes to an hour to go through all of that manually with an agent, and now it takes like 6 minutes with all this automation. So yeah, very, very cool story. Didn't want to forget about that. So thank you.
No, that's a great shout out.
I yield my time back.
I was going to ask Michael, with Frost, you put together these amazing market maps. I'm not sure what you guys call it, but how do you reconcile? How do you think about the landscape now with all these interesting vendors that are all different and unique? Is it tough to put together, conceptually a CPaaS landscape?
It's the Frost radar. Yeah, but
Radar.
that's our
Yes, the
name.
radar.
Yes, the radar. You know, it's been. I think I kind of came in a little bit different. You know, because I had talked to a lot of the ecosystem partners, and uh, everyone. For me, the market is really interesting because everyone's kind of coming to this programmable place, but, but they're all coming in from a different way. Um, you know, they had at the event, not only did they have, you know, the Radisys and some of the telcos, but Cisco was there. And, you know, they have a solid, you know, CPaaS platform, you know, uh, and it's kind of the routes to market too. So, you know, untangling the acquisitions and the builds and the partners and things like that. So I have a fairly big tent in or broad tent in the radar. I do actually have the enablers like Radisys, you know, the carriers, kind of the dedicated CPaaS folks. I don't contain CPaaS into, you know, that transactional business model that you know that define the market. You know, there's UC vendors and all that do play in the space. So it was actually, you know, for me it was uh, kind of a mix. I'm probably going to add a number of the startups that were mentioned into the radar, or at least evaluate them for inclusion in that. So that was kind of takeaway for me is I came away with, okay, these are some folks I have to, you know, talk to and add to that landscape.
Awesome. And Alan, tell us about the event itself. There were
Yeah.
working groups as well. What were some of the practical discussions you had, the meetings, the get-togethers, that sort of hands-on discussions within the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance?
Yeah, that's actually I spent quite a bit of time on that side of the focus within the program. So one of the neat things I think Kevin Nethercott did that was a kind of a neat trick was he charged us sort of the marketing people to say, how do we talk about CPaaS without saying the word CPaaS, right?
Mm,
How do you market CPaaS without using the term CPaaS? It's because if we, and I think what was the analogy is if if you look at an airplane, we worry about is is it a 737 with dash 700 with such and such engines on it? No, that's not really what people are buying. People are buying transportation. How do we sell CPaaS? And the focus in both the panel discussion that I hosted, plus in some of the breakout sessions, was about stepping back as an industry and looking at ourselves and saying, how do we best position ourselves from a marketing standpoint to make this technology, CPaaS, attractive to enterprises, to service providers, to the various buyers that are out there trying to create new applications. And it really was about the power of the applications that that the high level use case is what's going to drive the buying behavior. So we had a couple of breakouts talking about that, and then we got into some of the other issues that just the telecom industry is having to deal with, specifically around security and trust. We can do a lot of work on making these CPaaS platforms be able to automate processes, but if people don't answer the phone because they don't trust it anymore, which is becoming a real problem in our industry, if you haven't noticed, then we need to address it. So we created a working group called the Security Trust Working Group, which right now it's got 6 members as part of that working group with a charter of developing some best practices for the CPaaS industry to be able to improve security and trust so that our platforms don't get used to generate malicious or fraudulent traffic, to worsen the problem that is already existing in the telecom industry. So, from that side is super productive, and I was really really glad to be there. Sorry I missed some of the demos. Now you guys are making it wish I could be 2 places at one time, but I'm looking forward to the videos coming out. I'm looking forward to seeing what happened in the other sessions.
that's awesome. And Dave, any surprises? Anything that you learned? I know you know it all in the industry, but anything, any takeaways that you kind of well, I hadn't thought of that. You mentioned obviously RCS as something we saw innovation around. I saw a lot about WhatsApp and what's new with WhatsApp. What else?
Well, I guess one of the takeaways for me is that although I mentioned, we've been a 15-year build and overnight success, it is a very young and immature
Mm,
space. There's a lot of opportunity. We've got a couple, I'd say a handful of some pretty big providers, but there's a lot of providers in this space. In fact, Michael and I had a side conversation about, you know, who isn't in CPaaS. Almost every vendor now has some sort of catalog of APIs, and they're trying to figure out how to make them available and market them. And so, I mean, when you think of CPaaS, you think of the big players like Vonage and Twilio and Infobip I mentioned, and Cisco, Cinch. But then when you think of UCaaS, for example, you might think of RingCentral or um, 8x8 or even Microsoft with Teams. They're all CPaaS players too. So
mm,
everybody is kind of got the CPaaS space, and so there's this big opportunity here of how to specialize, how to go to market. Uh, vertical focus, horizontal focus, um, and I think we're just now getting to a mainstream awareness of what we can do with this stuff. So I think there's still tremendous amount of opportunity ahead of us.
indeed. And I mean, we're talking how great this industry is, and it is, but there are also some challenges, some roadblocks, some real, stumbling blocks that need to be overcome, structural issues in the industry, the X factor of telcos and their role. What are some of the challenges this industry is facing, Michael? And what has to happen next to reach this vision of billions and billions of dollars of revenue and all the good stuff we're talking about?
I think, and everyone should not, one thing when we start talking about telcos, you start, it's there's a mindset of we need to build everything that we sell to,
Mm,
to our customers. We have to spec it, RFP product, bring it in, and the CPaaS isn't waiting. Like customers
mm,
aren't waiting for the telcos to build that solution in house and build that talent, you know, and so we I think the challenge is getting over that hump for telcos to, yeah, no, we have to actually partner for this, or maybe we have to acquire something. Like we can't keep it all in house. I think is the biggest head, and I've had a lot of those conversations and talking API strategies with the telco providers. Um, and at the same at the same time, I think those providers, or the partners, there's been a lot of consternation, I guess, in about how they get paid and how who takes that risk of launching a CPaaS product for a telco and partnering together. And 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 a few companies have fallen by the wayside because they couldn't quite get that model and make it sustained for themselves. So it's understanding that this is an ecosystem, and everybody needs to get their due, I think is what's kind of blocking that. Um, the other thing is it's really, you know, APIs are very sticky. Once you kind of code to those,
mm,
it's hard to break that. So kind of everything we said, that pandemic acceleration, I think were very tactical moves. There's still kind of a long tail opportunity to like how do APIs strategically fit within our organization. So you can see some churn, things like that, which is opportunity, but at the same time, there's also kind of inertia of like it's working.
mm.
Let's just leave it alone. So that opportunity versus inertia, you know, and really trying to live in this ecosystem and think about it as an ecosystem and not just a whole bunch of competitors in the space.
I think those are great thoughts. But I want to add one thing to that, Michael. I think we hear a lot about this in enterprise communications in general about commoditization, and in CPaaS, SMS is the same. There's only so much you can do with these various technologies and modalities. And as a technologist, I always want to figure out who's got the best who's got the best SMS. I got to figure out who's got the best SMS. But I think in CPaaS, we're already kind of at this point, probably earlier than other technologies, where it's not really about the technology. It's really about the onboarding, the support, the languages that are supported, the billing methods and billing models. And I think that's really going to allow a lot of differentiation with these providers. I think every one of them is going to offer SMS, and someday everyone will offer RCS. But uh, but how they support it and how they enable their customers to be successful is where the real rubber hits the road.
I would agree with that, and I think there's right. We're past, if as you said, there's a whole bunch of commodity technologies there of SMS and voice, and it's really differentiations to become with how can I add value to these commodity solutions. I
Well,
have it's not about the best SMS. It's maybe about the best low code, no code solution for this industry, or the best marketing package or solutions, campaigns, what have you. But yeah, I think it is really a trick of finding the value, and delivering the value for customers.
and I might add to Michael, what you just said. I think that no code, low code, having a toolkit, having sample software, having a framework to build your application for the particular vertical market that they're going after, I think is really what's going to make a differentiation. Because you're right, once you get underneath that first layer, the development environment, everything underneath that is kind of invisible to most of the, probably, especially the enterprise software developers. So at that point, it's just going to be how quickly can I get this stood up, and will it be reliable? And that'll probably make the big difference.
And Alan, Telco Bridges, you're one of the sort of arms dealers to this industry. No offense. How do you approach, having, one platform, one software stack with so many different use cases and applications, and can you support them all? Can you do it all? And how do you as a vendor focus and niche
Yeah. So
down in some of these areas?
what's nice about where we sit in the market is, like you said, we're down low in the stack, but we're very horizontal, right? And we,
Mhm.
not only offer connectivity to CPaaS platforms, but all different kinds of other applications. And that's part of that's because of the standardization of SIP, right? That the fact that we chose a common protocol to use for our call control has made a huge difference. But it's the use cases that we see all kinds of crazy things. So one of our case study customers, Aircall, has built this business productivity contact center platform on Twilio, and to normalize the SIP traffic that comes in from all their international operators. They send them into our SBCs. The SBCs clean it all up and send it off to the Twilio data centers to be able to be processed for the calls. So it's we have a viewer perspective to these different applications as where the traffic goes. A lot of it now is voice, right? CPaaS used to be the big SMS generator, right, for all of our two-factor authentication applications. But we're seeing more and more voice in CPaaS applications. So yeah, it's nice being part of that horizontal layer, because you get to see a lot of things from down there. And hopefully all this stuff actually comes to market and turns into real money.
Yeah. Well, let's talk, Tom, about real money and getting to market. How quickly can this industry turn around new applications and get new services to market and innovate? I mean, that's what it's all about in the end of the day, right? Is doing something different, serving new business needs. Did you see a lot of that at Casa?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think it's one of the beauties of it is just how quickly it can innovate, just because of the nature of the technology. So, I think that's one of its superpowers, is its agility. I think that's not so much the challenge. It's just that market penetration. And we've talked a little bit about that already. It was one of the reasons there was a focus on telcos that we mentioned earlier as well, like just because they do have such a broad reach. And it hit me too when I think of telcos. I mean, I only think about AT&T and Verizon. Like that is telcos to me, but
Come
that's
on,
not most of.
T-Mobile, you left out the good one here. So
Hey,
really,
I'm a T-Mobile customer, so I didn't mean to leave them out. But the point is, there's the rest of the world. There's thousands of telcos that are that are trying to innovate, and many of them are, if you talk to the European telcos. I was at Mobile World Congress earlier this year, and one of the messages that they all said, Orange and Deutsche, and they were all basically saying that their business is dying because of the pressure to keep low rates and the increased costs. Like they're getting squeezed, so they're having to be innovative. They're having to look at other ways to monetize their networks and infrastructure. So, there is this kind of interest, kind of global interest in driving this. And, as we think about taking a 20 or $30 billion market and growing it into a $100 billion market over the next 6 or 7 years, and that's what this alliance is trying to do, it's going to take new partnerships. It's going to take like telcos. It's going to take a different go-to-market delivery mechanisms. It's going to take new talent. It's going to take a lot. And I think that's one of the things that I respect about this alliance is like, what, we're going to stand up and try to do this. And I think ultimately that was one of the points of this conference, and why a lot of the folks were there. It's like, it's going to take all of us, to get together to grow this industry. It's not going to grow organically or naturally. It's not going to grow from 30 billion or 20 billion to 100 billion. It's not, it's going to take this kind of effort. It's going to take new partnerships. It's going to take new thought leadership. It's going to take new marketing. Everything we've talked about on this call, is kind of an outcome of this event. And I think, for this being kind of the first one, I think the next year should be twice as big, and we'll see it just grow from there.
Yeah, twice as big would be good. Dave, you were skeptical maybe about the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance. You might be a believer now. You might be, they might have won you over.
Yeah, you don't get to say that I was skeptical. I had a conflict. I had a conflict and I couldn't come, and then my conflict disappeared, so I came. But I think what's really what Tom is kind of touching on there is there's a number of things that are kind of swirling around in enterprise communications right now that are actually swirling right around CPaaS. And so, we haven't done the obligatory mention of AI, but Tom talked about that use case where it was identifying fire in a video, but a lot of AI is usage based and API based. In fact, I think API represents a huge opportunity for the CPaaS providers, and so I think we're going to see. We know AI is going to be growing, and I think it's going to grow largely as API type of services from CPaaS providers. We also have a new generation of mobility, 5G. This is part of what drove the Vonage acquisition by Ericsson. So I think we're going to see, was it just last week? It was Deutsche Telekom announced an alliance with Vonage for the CPaaS, and we're going to see APIs around things like network quality of service, which we've never been able to do that kind of thing before. So I think there's just a whole bunch of these trends and things that we talk about in separate videos, Evan. We have a video for this, we have a video for that, but they're all kind of swirling and converging around CPaaS, and so I think it's a pretty bullish area right now. Pretty good, pretty interesting.
And what do you hope to see in Casa 24? Are you hoping to bring it to Portugal, Dave? Or are you looking to see, should it be a 5-day event? What's next? What could the team do?
Well, I actually loved the venue that they had in Amsterdam. You can see it in one of Tom's videos. A beautiful venue, theater style seating, and my hotel is too close. If anything, I'm going to get a further hotel next year so I can ride hotels have bikes here. I'm going to ride my bike to the venue because everybody else does, and I think that we didn't fill up that theater, and so I want to, I'm looking for. I hope it's in the same place. I want a sold out venue, and I think that's quite doable actually. And we had to leave. The conference ended, and we had to leave right away because the Queen was coming to do an event at that venue. So, so nice place.
It was.
It sounds
really
like it.
nice.
Michael, what about you? What are you looking forward to with Casa 24 and from the K-Pasa Alliance?
Well, I think in the next year it'll get so big that it'll have to ruin it, and then we'll like all end up in Orlando, and like the dolphin and the swan or something like that. Because
God no.
I know, right?
It's a weird dolphin.
No, I think kind of. I think in the next year, we're going to hear. I think you're going to see these startups turn into more mature solutions, and even tighter demos. And I think attendance, yeah, should go through the roof, because I think this year was hey, this is real. This is something we can work on together. Stop thinking of your competitive nature, or build, um, and come and join us. And I think, the working groups that Alan was talking about are going to get attention. I think the education, solutions they're talking, and training the next batch of CPAS nerds is going to be really attractive. And yeah, I do expect to try to fill that auditorium.
Fantastic. Alan, what do you want to see, hope to see from Casa 24? Maybe we could bring it to Buffalo. That would be a change of scene. Great opportunity for the city. What say you?
Amsterdam. Well, I will tell you that the venue, I agree, was a phenomenal venue, and Amsterdam's a beautiful city, wonderful. It's maybe not really easy for a lot of people in North America to get to. It's a long ways away, but it's worth the trip. I can tell you that it was definitely worth the trip. I can't imagine the size of the boat that we're going to need for the boat cruise evening.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
We're going to have to have 2 boats, and maybe get some water cannons between the 2 of them or something.
For the record, we needed a bigger boat this year, but that's a different story.
Exactly. I was afraid everybody's
Tom,
going to go to one.
what say you? You seem like you really enjoyed the event,
Yeah.
personally, professionally.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to? What could be done differently, better next year?
I think they, and as I said in my video, I mean, they checked all the boxes for a great event, great city, great venue, great content, great agenda, right amount of networking time versus keynotes versus panels. I think they just did a phenomenal job. I think, yeah, I'd like to see it grow, but not get too big, because I think one of the best parts about it was the ability to get to talk to most of the attendees, and not just talk, but have real conversations with them. And it was just so easy. I mean, like you just, it was one of the better just kind of networking groups, and that everyone was there to engage. They weren't there to sell or to, try to get a deal done. I mean, they were there to network, and so I was. And again, people from all over the world. So I love that aspect of it. I hope it doesn't get so big that we start to lose that. And that we kind of keep this kind of community. They call it the K-Pasa community. And, I think for their first event, they really kind of implemented that, or, culture of real collaboration. So, that's the thing I would hope that even as they grow, they're able to maintain.
Well, it was quite an event. It's quite a community. And onwards and upwards. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks for joining, sharing your insights. And thanks, everyone, for watching. Be sure to reach out to these, industry gurus with any feedback, questions, comments. There's a ton of comments here we didn't even manage to get to yet on Twitter and LinkedIn, but we'll do that. And yeah, have fun. Enjoy the rest of your day, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thanks, Evan.
Take care. Bye-bye.